Do you describe yourself as a people pleaser or a fixer? Are you constantly putting others' needs ahead of your own, only to be hurt when your help isn't appreciated? You might be dealing with codependency. Now, codependency is not a diagnosis. It's a relational pattern that can leave us hurt and frustrated. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about what codependency looks like and offer practical steps for building healthier connections. Now, you won't find codependency in the DSM. That's because it's not a diagnosis. It is a long and varied list of relational patterns, beliefs, and actions that we take that essentially blur the boundaries in a relationship. The term codependency came from, and the concept grew out of the addiction treatment community, specifically in family therapy for addicts. However, we can understand it not only in that context, but in the context of anyone, particularly children, who grow up with difficult or aggressive, highly critical or manipulative parents or other family members. When we do that, then we develop certain understandings and beliefs about how to maintain safety and security in our own lives and in our own relationships. If a child comes to understand that if I will just do or say certain things, dad won't get mad or mom won't leave the house for 3 days, then the child becomes very invested in those, not only just as a means of feeling good, but also just as a basic survival mechanism. So when we develop codependent patterns, they're usually formed in some kind of a foundational, highly formative part of our lives, and it typically grows out of a relationship with an addict or a difficult person. What does codependency look like in a relationship? Well, there are a few basic patterns that can come up in a variety of ways. Patterns of anxiety and fear of abandonment, over-investing in others, and in people-pleasing. So realize that codependency at its core is a matter of preserving our own safety through securing our relationships, securing their existence, not necessarily making them secure relationships. In fact, often codependent relationships are not very secure because the codependent person can have a tremendous fear of abandonment or fear of rejection. They can be highly sensitive to the criticisms and anger of other people in their lives and will go to great lengths to avoid that. And it can really be overwhelming to a codependent person, almost intolerable, when someone that they care about is angry with them or disapproves of something that they said or done. Codependent people can have very strong people-pleasing instincts. This can include trying to help people with their problems, or whether they ask you to or not. Codependent people can often try to insert themselves into other people's lives in sort of a boundary violation, and then they can get very upset when the help is either not successful or not appreciated. Codependent people also can put other people's needs above their own. Sometimes that might look like something simple like going to see a movie with your partner that you really don't want to see, and you sit there not enjoying yourself because you've committed to going to see a movie you knew you didn't want to see in the first place. Sometimes codependent people can be very hesitant to assert their own needs and boundaries in a relationship out of fear that it's going to somehow fracture the relationship. And so codependent people can often really struggle with saying something like, hey partner, this actually hurt me and I'd like to talk about it. And so they can suffer in silence. These things can build up over time, leading to outbursts and larger fractures within the relationship. So often fear of abandonment, over-investing in other people, and not maintaining their own boundaries in the relationship are all classic examples of codependent behaviors. The concept of codependency can get really confusing when you compare codependent behaviors to things that actually represent things we all try to do in our relationships. After all, we all try to do nice things for our partners. We try to be helpful to them when they ask us to be. It is healthy to be attuned to how our behaviors are affecting others. And we don't always want to be selfish and overbearing in demanding that our needs be met. And so where is that line? How do we distinguish between codependent behaviors and behaviors that are just a natural part of any relationship? Well, I think there are a couple ways that we can look to. One is in frequency intensity, of course, and so if we are always hyper-focused on the happiness and well-being of our partner, not engaging in our own self-care or stating or seeking having our own needs met, when that becomes out of balance, then that can be a good example. I think also motivation matters, right? And so if you're doing nice things for someone because you just like being helpful and you want to be nice to them and they've actually asked for your help, that's an important detail there, then that can be a healthy thing. However, if we over-invest in those things, we insert ourselves into circumstances that we were not asked to be in, or maybe sometimes codependent people can even try to wiggle someone into a situation where then they need their help. These all kind of speak to an anxiousness, a fear of abandonment that we try to address by getting people into a position where they will need us, and then when we come to the rescue, then they will appreciate and love us even more. And I think that's one of the key components of codependency, is when we are doing it out of some unbalanced and unhealthy sense of preserving a relationship by trying to manipulate someone into a certain circumstance, then that kind of crosses the threshold for me in terms of codependency. But by all means, we want to be nice to our partners, we want to be helpful, and we want to care about the people in our lives. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as it comes from a perspective of respect and healthy boundaries. So how do we break the cycle of codependency in our relationship? Well, I think it naturally begins with awareness and recognition. We have to know what those patterns are, and we have to learn how to recognize them when they are occurring in the flow of our interactions with the people in our lives. Oftentimes, the support of a qualified therapist or a support group can be incredibly helpful. A support group that I have knowledge of, I have no personal knowledge of what it's like to be there, but I've heard good things, is a group called Codependence Anonymous. So you may want to check out their website to see if that is a good answer for you. While you're working on codependency and maintaining boundaries, realize that boundary setting, if we're not used to doing it, can be a very uncomfortable process. Respecting other people's boundaries when we're used to over-investing and over-helping can be an incredibly uncomfortable process for us. And so just recognize that alongside working on codependency, we also have to do a lot of work on self-compassion and self-image. Those, I think, have to go hand in hand if we're really going to make good progress. Again, this is where a support system can be really helpful for you. I encourage you to find the one that's right for you. Friends, thank you for the gift of your time and attention today. I'm so grateful. Please do like, share, and subscribe. That helps us out quite a bit. And until next time, be well.